So up here we're checking if it's been submitted, and then regardless of whether data has been submitted through the form, we're going to display the entries from the database anyway. So inside a if statement we need to say if is set, and in here we're going to specify the values from this form here, 1, 2, 3, and check if these have been set. So the first one is $_post guestbook name. Remember, we named that in our form down here, guestbook name. If we come back up again, we comma separate these inside this function, and we say $_post guestbook email. In fact, what have I done here? That needs to go there. Sorry, I created that in the wrong place. So now $_post, and you probably guessed it, guestbook message. So if these three values have been set, this means that the form has been submitted. When we click post, these values are automatically set. They don't necessarily have to contain anything, but they are set. So now what we can do is, if it has been set, we'll just produce a little message now to just for our testing purposes, and we can see if this works. So we can echo set. So let's go ahead and refresh our page, and we click post, and we get this message set. So if we just land on guestbook page, nothing's been set. If we click post, it's been set. So now inside this block we can continue with our checks, and we can also then insert the data if all of our checks are valid and if we don't have any errors. So the next thing we want to do is we want to check if the values contain anything, because at the moment, even if we don't add any values, it's still returning set. So what we need to do is we need to check if these are empty. So we need to say if empty. Well, an easier way to do this would be to declare variables up here from these values, because we know that we're set now. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to return an undeclared variable or an undefined index error. So what we can do is we can now say guestbook name is equal to $_post guestbook name. So obviously you can name this variable anything you like, but this is the value that's been checked already, therefore we know that it exists, so we can give it its own variable declaration. Obviously you can call these whatever you like. I'm just using the same structure to keep things simple and easy to understand. So we can do exactly the same for the rest. We can say guestbook email equals $_post guestbook email, and again guestbook message we can say $_post guestbook message. So these three variables now have been given the value of what's been posted through the form. So now we can use these to check a lot quicker, and we're using a lot less code, and we're not referencing these over and over again. So if if empty guestbook name, or, so remember we're using this or logical operator, empty guestbook email, or empty guestbook message. So remember what we're doing is we're wrapping the variable name, which contains a value or doesn't contain a value, in this empty function, and this empty function is going to check that it doesn't equal null, which means if it does equal null, there's nothing's been entered into the form field essentially. So if these all equal empty, so we're checking or and or, so we're saying if this is empty, or this is empty, or this is empty, then we have a problem because all fields are required. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and say errors, and remember this is an array, so we're using square parentheses, equals all fields are required. So what we've now done is we've stored this data here, all fields required. We've stored string data inside this errors array. Now later on what we're going to be doing is checking this errors array to see if it's empty using exactly the same function. Now if the errors array is empty, it means that we don't have any errors because we haven't set any like here, or what we're going to do in a moment just down here. If it is empty, sorry, then we're going to continue and insert everything because we don't have any errors. So follow along logically and hopefully you'll understand this concept. The next check that we need to make is if the values or the string lengths are greater than what they have been specified down here in our max length. So the only way this error will be returned if someone was to modify this form data by saving this page and resubmitting it to the server that this script is located on. So we need to say if string length of guestbook name, so strlen function returns an integer value of the string length of this. So if I was to type in Alex as the guestbook name over here, it would return a 4. If I was to enter something greater, say 27 characters, this value here would now equal 27, and we need to perform the relevant check to make sure that doesn't happen. So if the string length of guestbook name is greater than 25, or the string length of guestbook email is greater than 255, so we're using our greater than operators here, comparison operators, or, so we're using or, a logical operator again, the string length of guestbook message is greater than 255, then we have a problem. So we can break down into a block here if you like, and we can say errors equals one or more fields exceeded the character limit. Now this, like I said, this error message will only be produced if someone tries to trick our code, if you like, so they decide to change the max length themselves. So this is going to avoid lots of data being inserted. Obviously, if we were to insert more than 25 characters into our database, so essentially what we are doing is just being really careful about things and making sure we allow checks to happen server side. So the server side of our application or web page, if you like, is also making these relevant checks to ensure that everything is processed correctly and that we're not sending too much data to our database.